Hello, everyone. Welcome finally to the LMF podcast, the Let Me Finish podcast. I am your host, I guess, Nia Pope. I'm going to go on ahead and put my Instagram socials for those who are watching on YouTube. I'm going to go on ahead and attach all my socials below for those of you that are listening through any of the additional platforms. My socials are going to be plugged throughout the episode, so just stay tuned and definitely pay some attention. I wanted to introduce myself first. This is going to be interesting for me because I'm not really editing or cutting this down. As this being a podcast, it should just be raw and, there should just be an opportunity for everyone to just speak. And that's really what I'm looking to do. I want to really apologize for those of you who have been looking for the LMF pod. It is way long overdue. It was supposed to come out in April, but I had a couple of circumstances going on. I had a lot going on with work, and, of course, with that being no excuse, in the same breath, we are human. And I just still wanted to put the podcast out eventually for you guys to be able to hear and be able to indulge the same way I'm indulging, the same way I indulge and I listen to my friends' podcasts or watch my friends' YouTube videos. I want you guys to be able to talk and be open and ask questions, because honestly, that is what the Let Me Finish podcast is about. It's about letting you finish your thought, letting you get your thought off, your final thought. And we'll be answering questions throughout a lot of these episodes. We'll be having a lot of open discussion. We'll be having some laughter. We'll just be talking about a wide variety of a bunch of different things. And I am so extremely excited. I encourage everyone to follow the LMF pod on Instagram. That is the only platform that LMF pod is on right now. But God forbid, or not God forbid, but if I ever decide that I want to put LMF pod on anything else, like YouTube, not YouTube, but like Twitter or TikTok, those are the platforms I'll put them on, and you guys will know that. But so what is this podcast about? I told you, I kind of touched on it a little bit just a couple seconds ago. LMF pod is really about letting you finish saying what you need to say. I feel like there's been a lot of times where there's been things that I've wanted to say and have not completely spoken up on saying what I had to say. Or there's been conversations that I've had and I want to get my opinion in, but there's 10 other people in the room talking, or things on social media. Is that my... Oh, it's somebody outside. See, this is the thing with distractions and living in a city. I don't know if any of you guys can hear that noise, but I'm like, is my fire alarm going off? So that is just the whole point of this podcast, is to just be raw, and that's what I want it to be. And I can't wait to start inviting my friends on here to talk with you guys, and just to talk, period, to talk about different things. I'm super excited, and that's really what Let Me Finish is about. For right now, it's going to be me talking about my experience as a 23-year-old, freshly moved out of my house, didn't live on campus during college, so it's been an experience for me, having my own stuff, having to understand my lease, having to pay my own bills, having to get my own groceries. A lot of people get that transition during college, and I didn't. Not that I didn't know how to do any of those things, but it was a different situation now that I'm actually in my own place and I have to manage my money that I'm getting to work and how much I'm spending. So those are just some things that I'd love to talk about, because nobody's perfect, and people see life on social media and they think that social media life and what you post is like, oh, this person's living in a penthouse, or this person's living here with granite countertops and all. Like, it's for some people, it's not that easy. I will go on ahead and say that right now. I'm definitely not living in a place where I'm having multiple bedrooms and it's it really depends. It really depends on your living situation, how you manage money, how you budget money, and just what might be available to you at that moment. So, this is where I come in to kind of not come in all the way, but this is where I come in to talk about it because, hey, I'm going to talk about it. And that's what I want to do. So, I have some exciting things coming up, some very exciting collabs with a bunch of different people. I'm not going to name any names. You'll just have to stay tuned and wait and see. And if you are somebody that's listening to this podcast or watching this podcast on any of the other platforms and you have things that you have to say, go on ahead and shoot me a DM. Shoot me a DM at the LMF Pod Instagram or at my personal Instagram, Nia the Queen, the spelled THA. And we can go on ahead and figure out getting you on the podcast, letting you finish your thought, talking about the topics you want to talk about. So yeah, that was really exciting. So moving on to the next topic, a couple months ago when I was going to record the podcast, I went on ahead and put up a poll, not a poll, like a question bubble on Instagram, on both my LMF Pod and my personal podcast account. I put it on my personal account. I put it up a couple of times on my stories, and that was like in April or May. I was contemplating doing it again for this podcast, but I ended up getting a lot of good questions, and yeah, I'm excited to share some of those questions with you. I'm excited to just run through the questions. Some of them are work related. Some of them are personally related. So it really depends just on, what questions people felt like answering me that day or asking me that day. But I said that I would answer all of them. So let me go on ahead and let's run through some of these questions here. So the very first question I got, if I could travel anywhere in the world, where would it be and why? So I decided before I get into this question, I decided to go on ahead and be organic with this, even though I had already seen these questions ahead of time and, had the ability to really think. I really just wanted to write the questions down and answer them on the spot, frankly. So that's what I'm doing. So if you hear a little bit of silence, it might be me thinking. Of course, I don't have another co-host or anybody else here with me that's doing this podcast with me. So it's not like somebody's really going to be, probing me or kind of giving me ideas for these questions. But anyway, sidebar, I'm a rambler. So if I could go anywhere in the world, where would it be and why? Well, there's a lot of places I would go in the world. But the very first place I could think of, I've always wanted to go to Guyana. My mom's family is there. And I don't know, I've these past couple of years have really just wanted to be embraced in my culture. And me knowing that I might have a smidge of Guyanese in me, and I'm American, and I love Guyanese food, and I love hanging out with my mom's side of the family. I just would like to go and be able to see these things, experience these things, get to appreciate, my life and what I have going on. So that's probably where I'd probably choose Guyana. And why? Just to really embrace the culture, just to get a little bit of, really dig into some of these roots that, are embedded inside of me that I really don't know about. I would love to be able to do that. Another question I have here, how do you plan to spread success for the ones that come after you? So like I told you guys, these questions are very mixed in. But to answer this question, how I plan to spread success for the ones coming after me, I think the biggest thing that I could do in regards to spreading success, or the biggest things that I have done, is exactly what I'm doing right now. I'm putting out content. I'm making myself available. I think a lot of what I struggled with in high school and college is looking up to upperclassmen or people that come before me reaching out and really not hearing much feedback on anything. You can ask any of my close mass comm friends that know me. I'm one that, if I'm seeing something that might be related to them or good for them, I'm sending it to them. And that's just how I support. I see things from what people have going on, and I might match that up with a job that I see on LinkedIn and be like, this was perfect for you. This is the job for you. And I'm going to send it to them and ask ways that I could be of assistance. I'm sorry, guys, with the noise in the background again. What I really need is a soundproof room. But of course, with trying this whole podcast thing, soundproof room is not susceptible for me at this point. But anyway, so that's how I plan on spreading success for the ones coming after me. Really handing the torch to them, letting them know that my social media, my DMs, my email, my LinkedIn, my number, everything is open for them to reach out at any time they want, because I completely understand what it's like not looking up to someone and not being able to really get the full brunt of any advice they're trying to give you, because they're not reaching back out to you. They're not answering anything. They're posting on social media, and it's really hard to get in touch with some of these people. And this next question went with the previous question. How do you remain teachable to the ones that come before you? Now, it goes with the last question on reaching out to the ones after you, but this is a good question because it talks about the ones coming before you. Again, like I said, I struggled a lot with reaching out to those who came before me in regards to asking for advice. And I wouldn't always, sometimes somebody would bite, other times I would a lot of times just be left on red or nobody would really answer. So what I've had to learn to do is just continue to remain humble. I just remain humble. And I know that that one person that actually is going to respond to me is going to be that person, my person to respond. And that has happened to me in a good amount of situations before. Okay, next question. What NFL stadium is on my bucket list? That is a great question, because now that I've had a taste of working for the NFL, I've gotten to see a lot of stadiums over the how would you say it, through the lens of the camera from my office. And most recently in April, I had the opportunity to travel to Atlanta with NFL and attend the Black Sports Business Symposium, where that was actually held in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. And that was the first time I guess I could go, back through the tunnel, and I get to be in the little VIP areas. So that was prior to this, that would have been my answer. Now I've always wanted to go inside and tour SoFi Stadium. So I think that is the next stadium. That is the stadium on my bucket list right now that I would want to visit, is SoFi Stadium in California. Let's see. How do you respond to bias, prejudice, obstacles in your journey to your dream job? So this is such a good question, because if anybody is viewing me right now on YouTube, you guys can see that I am a Black, African American, whatever you want to call it. I'm a Black woman. And currently, I am a Black woman in sports. So not only do I have the fact that I'm a woman, I have the fact that I'm a Black woman. And then adding on to the fact, especially being in this mass comm world and getting to meet a lot of different people, I'm younger, which is not something you see a lot. A lot of these full-time positions have meant like a lot of tenured employees, tenured people working for these companies that have been working there for 10 plus years. And honestly, sometimes it's hard for a lot of us younger employees or us younger students fresh out of college to get into some of these companies. But that's a story for another day. But the main question is, how do I respond to bias and obstacles? The best response to me has been no response. The best response to me has been action. They always say a picture is worth 1,000 words. Not sometimes a picture doesn't always need a caption to it. Sometimes you could look at a picture and you could just see what that picture is showing you. In regards to my own personal story and growth journey, I still haven't gotten to where I want to be yet. I still haven't gotten to my dream job, which is to work in entertainment eventually. Getting into sports was rewarding, easy, but difficult. Trying to stay out of sports is rewarding, or is difficult because sports is a very rewarding job, and it's a one that's very fast paced. And although similar when it comes to different seasons, it's almost as entertaining as entertainment. But for me, I just can't help the fact that I personally want to try out an entertainment job. Previously, in the future, outside of me being a Black woman, another thing that I had kind of going against me here was the fact that I was slightly overweight. I had wanted to be not slightly, but I was overweight. I had wanted to be on camera. I had wanted to be on air, some type of on-camera personality. And yeah, it just, when you put me in the lineup of a bunch of other people who wanted to be on camera and on air, even though I might have this big personality and I might be able to read the teleprompter really well, and, you know, I'm interacting well with everybody and I know everything behind the scenes and I know everything in front of the scenes, it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. And, you know, that's also something that I had to challenge, you know, moving through this industry, is that plus size girls, dark skinned girls, all sort of shades of chocolate and caramel and cream should be on the air, should be on television. There should not be any sort of discrimination. There shouldn't be any sort of bias in regards to who is being put on screen, who is being put on what network. There shouldn't be any of that. There should not be any of that. Although I'm not the wildest, biggest Lizzo fan in regards to her music, I'm very much a fan of her personality. I'm very much a fan of how she's given people a platform, to be backup dancers. I'm sure a lot of those backup dancers have gone to events or auditions, and they were told they couldn't audition because they couldn't, do the moves or whatever because they were too big. I'm sure people have said that, and they have proved everybody wrong because they're dancing for Lizzo, and they're dancing for more than just Lizzo. Actually, I've seen some of those backup dancers dancing for people like Beyonce, all sorts of people. So, I really think it speaks to the magnitude of sometimes you really don't always need a response. For me, there's no response to any sort of bias or prejudice. I just keep doing what I'm doing. If you don't accept me in the space that I'm in that current moment, then somebody else will. And when I go into that other space and that person accepts me and approves of me, you're gonna feel some type of way. You're gonna really feel like you missed out. You really will. And sometimes that's just what you have to let happen with certain companies, with specific people. Sometimes that's what you have to let happen, and that's what I've let happen, and you kind of just move under the radar. So I love that question. So I know who asked that question, so thank you for asking that question. Here's a fun question. How many NFL players have I met so far? Believe it or not, I haven't met that many NFL players. I've been on a couple of shoots for Top 100 at NFL Films here in New Jersey. But, I don't really keep count of what sort of players I meet. The couple of players that I did meet, honestly, we're all around the same age. They're just like us. It's not like they're coming in their football gear. Most of the time they're just coming in like some cool sneakers and some jeans. And, the couple of players I've met have not had that crazy chip on their shoulder. So it's been very nice to be able to meet people and not actually know their players, because half the times I actually don't know their players. I'm not like internally freaking out. I'm just trying to get my work done. So that's been cool. what's my favorite go-to work outfit? This is an interesting question because, I just, like everybody, I guess, just wear clothes. And I'm not trying to be smart, but I'm just saying, when I was working at films, it was mainly during the winter. Got hired in November, so winter, I got a little bit of the taste of the summer. And it's really just like wear what is comfortable for you. If I know I'm going to have to be in there for long hours and I know the building is cold, I'm going to bring something to keep myself warm, to keep myself comfortable. There were some days where I might have known we would have had a shoot, or there might have been players in the building and I know we might have had a shoot. And I think one time I put on these brand new shoes because I wanted to be able to have a talking point with some of these players. I really didn't know a lot of them. Not like I studied their stats, not like I knew too much of what they had going on. So I put the shoes on, and the moment I walked in, it was a talking point. It was something we were able to talk about their shoes. We were able to talk about my Jordans. We were able to just kind of like chop it up. And it wasn't anything too crazy that way. But yeah, I just really wear what's comfortable to work, I guess. Sometimes leggings and a sweater. Sometimes I'll wear dresses. It really just depends on the weather. It depends on how long I'm going to be in the office. So that's my go-to work outfit, I guess. Next question is my favorite college memory. Man, can I even pinpoint one specific favorite college memory? I don't know. I was on campus. I did live on campus for a small bit, but it was only for a small bit. So it wasn't for anything too long. And my favorite memory, I'm trying to think of what that might be. We did have a hornet infestation in our room in Jenkins. I stayed in a triple with 2 other girls, and they were great. We refused to keep our room dirty, so we weren't going to keep our room dirty. And then we had the hornet infestation, and that was fun, but it wasn't, because like you always had to worry about hornets or wasps flying around your room. But also it was funny because like 3 girls, we were having to kill these wasps, and it was funny. It was funny. I really do miss freshman year. Another good experience I had, I went to a couple of concerts, and they had DC Young Fly come to campus one time to do a comedy show, and his comedy show was so funny. It was so funny. It was no phones, but it was hilarious. It was a funny comedy show. And I had taken over the TV station at one point, so I had a couple of good experiences with the TV station and just being in there with the people and just being able to meet students on campus. That was the time I met the most students on campus, actually. So the TV station in itself, DESU TV in itself, was just enough of a talking point for me. And yeah, so right now we're going to take a quick break before we head to the next questions, and then we're going to go on ahead and hop right back in. Hey LMF fam, hope you're enjoying LMF Pod so far. If you're on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, make sure to download and add LMF Pod to your list. And if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you go on ahead and like and subscribe for more videos. Now back to the episode. Welcome back. We're back. I had a bit of some technical difficulty issues, so I went on ahead and had to put us on a little commercial break. But I hope you guys enjoyed the commercial, if there was a commercial. If there wasn't, then welcome back really soon. I'm going to go on ahead and answer just a couple more questions, and then I'm going to go on ahead and close this out for today, because I'm excited to have this edited. I'm excited to really be able to speak with you guys. I'm excited for you guys to watch this or listen to this, whatever that may be. And I'm excited for you guys to go on ahead and give me your opinion. Let me know what you guys have thought of this podcast so far, and, give me some insight on what I could do better. So I was talking about favorite college memory. I'm going to go on ahead and keep it on the topic of undergrad and answer this question. Any regrets from what I did or did not do during undergrad? Unfortunately, I wish I could say I live my undergrad life with no regrets, but I do. I have things that I wish I did during undergrad. I wish that during undergrad I would have forced myself to stay on campus. I wish that during undergrad I would have been a little bit more vocal and attended a little, more events, created a little bit more friends, not be such a homebody all the time, or not be really so specific on who I'm friends with, kind of open up my friend group and circle a little bit more, say yes to going out to things and events and parties and game nights, all of that. Let's see. Things that I didn't do in college, like I said, I didn't stay on campus, so that's one thing that I wish I did do a little bit better. I wish my grades were better. I actually graduated with honors, but I personally wish my grades were better than they were when I graduated. I wish I tried a little bit harder for some classes. I wish I tried a little bit harder for some of my mass communications classes. Probably would have had a little bit, my portfolio would have looked a little bit better walking out of college, COVID and all. But, college and senioritis, that it's real. And so, those are just some regrets I have. Life at DSU, that's also a question I'm getting. Life at DSU for me was like just going to school regularly. Again, I was a commuter, so I wasn't really on campus, but I was on campus. I kind of pick and chose. After the pandemic, I was on campus a little bit more, hung out a little bit more in the ETV building, tried to really push myself to go to some more events as my time at Del State was coming to an end. The first half of college, I'm going to be honest with you, I don't really remember. I remember some things very, some things were fun, some things very depressing. So yeah, college was an interesting experience for me. It was an interesting experience for me. Let's see, another question. Advice to people trying to stay consistent. See, I love questions like these because guess what? I'm still trying to stay consistent. As you guys can see, I am still trying to stay consistent with posting on YouTube, posting vlogs, editing, creating content, putting out my podcast. Like, my best advice is when you become inconsistent, just keep trying your best to stay consistent. The consistency is going to catch on eventually. It's one thing to keep saying tomorrow, but it is another thing to want to be consistent and say, man, I didn't make it to the gym today, but I'm going to make it to the gym tomorrow. You get up and you get yourself together to go to the gym. You go to the gym tomorrow. Say you don't make it to the gym the day after. Okay, but you make it to the gym the day after that. Even though it might not be the level of consistency you want, at least you're making it to the gym. For me, I want to consistently post. I want to consistently post content on my personal Instagram. I want to consistently post content on the LMF Pod Instagram. I just want to be consistent. And that's an issue that I've realized that I've had. And that's an issue that I plan on fixing. And the only way I plan on fixing this issue is by just doing it. So that is my advice to you. Just do it. Try to be as consistent as possible. Nobody's clocking you, but you can clock yourself. That's my advice to you. How do I feel about marriage? This is a random question, but I guess I just looked at it and I started reading it. So I guess, my brain wants me to answer it. I think marriage is cool. I don't have an issue with marriage. I don't have an issue with marriage if it's something that's really real and that's gonna stick and hold on, if that makes sense. I don't know if that really makes sense, but that's just how I feel about marriage. Enough said, not too much on the marriage or the relationship conversation. That's something for another podcast. That is something for a completely different podcast, for a completely different podcast episode, because we will be getting into that eventually. How am I mentally? This is such a nice question. I'm doing well. Mentally, I'm doing pretty good right now. with me being on this NFL break and, just trying to get some other things done. Am I slacking a little bit? Yes. But at least I can acknowledge I'm slacking, and I'm trying my best to, get myself moving and ready for the next chapter, because if I fail one day, I can't be upset that I failed for the one day and be upset the rest of the year. No, I just have to keep it pushing and move on. And the last question I'm going to answer: what makes you gravitate towards people, and what pulls you away? What makes me gravitate towards people is when I have things with those people that are in common, similar hobbies, similar music. I like people's energy. I like gravitating towards good energy. Things that pull me away: immaturity, extraness, beef, doing too much. For me, I look to see myself as a very calm individual. When you bring me to that level, that's where it has to be something really big, but I usually never get to that level. I'm too, in my head at least, I'm too grown to be doing the whole back and forth internet beef. I don't do any of that. So what pulls me away is when I start seeing people act in a way I don't want to associate myself with. So I don't associate myself with them. And so that's just my easy answer to that. But I really, 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 really thank you guys so much for all of the questions that you guys have offered and have granted me the chance of answering today during this podcast, during episode 1 of my LMF podcast on my LMF channel on YouTube. And take a look at my vlogs, my Nia in the Know vlogs on YouTube as well. I have a couple cool vlogs on there. Last vlog, I went to Miami. So definitely watch those. Thumbs it up, comment, let me know content you want to see. Let me know some content you might want to see here in the house, because that is where I'm going to be during a lot of the summer. But yeah, I'm so excited for you guys to really get to experience this podcast and really go along this journey with me and really get to know me as a person, because I feel like a lot of my followers on here, a lot of my followers on Instagram, they don't really know me. They don't really know Nia, and I'm ready for you guys to know me, get to know a little bit of who I am, and really show you guys why I deserve to be in this space among all of these other amazing, talented creators. And I really want to build my platform to be able to do that for you guys. So I appreciate everything you guys have done for me so far. And thank you so much if you've gotten to this point in the podcast. Thank you so much for listening. And I can't wait to see you on the next episode. I hope you guys have a fantastic, blessed rest of your day. Peace.